Hello. I wanted to talk a little bit about polish. And I think that this is, again, probably a much longer video than I'm probably going to do for now. But I thought I'd have some fun with it because there's an expression I just heard. I was watching. Oh, and for those of you who might have a weak stomach, I'm going to show some poop right now. You're like, wait, what? What the hell? Yeah, just hang tight. Um, I saw a video that was talking about can you even polish a turd? Like as if it was a real question, because there's an expression which is no matter how hard you try, you can never really polish a turd, right? With the idea meaning that the fundamental drawing underneath, if it's not any good, then there's no real way to polish this. And there's a lot of truth to this. You want the foundations to be super solid, you know? So that way the rest of your drawing becomes a lot more effective. And I think I'm going to focus on why that is the case as I actually polish a turd. And let me be clear, there were much more disgusting imagery poop that I was looking at that I just felt that this is probably the most appropriate um, for what I'm going to do. And I think even in the thumbnail, I might use a more cartoony looking poop because I actually don't like the idea of showing real poop on my channel. Like this is more one of those. I think I don't know if this is like real poop. I mean, it is. I think it's like manure of some sort, but it's I forget what they call it. It's like when they pop it out, so they can kind of make plants grow better. Dude, I don't know. I actually know nothing about what these are, but I know I see these all the time whenever you're out in the middle of um, a grassy field. That's all we need to do to talk about. Yeah, let me try not to destroy too much of this image. Let's actually start to use it to our advantage. But the spirit of kind of what is said and what is talked about uh, is merited, and I'll kind of explain why in a little bit. Which is whenever you think about this expression, "Can you polish a turd?" and why it's important to understand that the fundamentals are by far the most important thing to kind of worry about within an image. The idea is that if a lot of things are just not good with your actual concept or illustration, like your anatomy is a little bit warped, or your perspective is a little bit janky, or a million other things that could have gone wrong, you know, then you're going to be spending a lot of your time correcting said turd, said bad painting. And that's what I'm going to be doing here. Like, this was not a concept, right? Like, this is me just taking what I see. I'm going to probably use a lot of the original colors. And at some point, I'm actually just probably going to completely paint over this so it doesn't even resemble what we were looking at prior. You know? Yeah, in fact, I think I need to kind of approach this a like, try to salvage approach. I already need to begin to make this my own painting. What if I made this some sort of kaiju? That could be fun. So let's do that. And so this is a lesson I learned actually when working at Sony Santa Monica. Hold on, my mic keeps falling. I don't know how to correct this. Sorry if there's a little bit of like sounds of me maneuvering the mic. I remember one time I was working on this concept and I was really excited about it. Spent a lot of time on it, like pretty much the entire morning to lunch. And I was feeling really good. I was excited to show it to my art director and to my game director to get their feedback on it. I thought they were going to be ecstatic. And then, my coworkers invited me out to lunch. So I'm like, yeah, let's go to lunch. So we all get up and go. And right before we go, I saved two files. One, which is the work that I was working on. And I had like this rough kind of sketch I was doing, like on the side. And I wanted to kind of keep it because I liked where it was going. So I just was like, oh, I'm just going to save this too. So I saved both my work and my sketch. And then we went out to lunch. We came back. And as I opened up my work file, named whatever the work file was called, let's just call it work file, the sketch showed up. And I was like, wait, what? And I closed it and I double checked. I looked at the title. It said work file. And I was just like, wait, what? No, that can't be true. That can't be my work file. You know? So I was like, oh, maybe I like accidentally switched them up and I saved my sketch as the sketch or as my work file, and then my work file as my sketch. You know, I thought I mixed it up. So I was like, okay, let me go look for my sketch save. And it was nowhere to be found. I couldn't find my quote unquote sketch Photoshop file. And deep sinking feeling in my gut hit, which was, oh shoot, did I accidentally overwrite my work file with my sketch? And that's exactly what happened. And I was devastated. And I remember spending like the next 10-15 minutes panicking and just looking online for like how to revert back files that might be corrupted, or is there version controls. Thankfully nowadays I use something like Dropbox, which actually does have file version controls, which is super useful. I've had to use it maybe 3 or 4 times, probably my entire career, but they were really like lifesavers. At least I don't know, they were lifesavers. They were like save me tons more time. Anyway, so I'm sitting there feeling like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And, you know, I call my wife, tell her, look, I'm going to be staying at work pretty late. I accidentally saved on my work file, like it's due tomorrow for review, and honestly, I have to just do it. I just got to stay here until it's done. She understood. She was like bummed out for me. So I took a deep breath, gathered the cojones, and just start working on the original concept, right? And after about half an hour to an hour, I was shocked that I was making huge progress. And within about 90 minutes, about an hour and a half, not only was I like back to kind of where I was at, like give or take some refinement here and there, you know, like it wasn't as refined, but like it was presentable and it was something I could show even if I stopped there, like if I didn't do any more work. And I was just so thrown off. I couldn't believe that it took me so little time. Because I was expecting to spend like 4 or 5 hours, similar to what I spend in the morning. And that's when it opened up my eyes that a lot of the time that we spend, quote unquote, polishing or refining work can sometimes be just us fixing lots of the mistakes. Hence kind of the theme of this video. Can you polish a turd? And the answer is indirectly, yeah, you could. Like if you started on like your art career right now, and all you ever did was work on one painting, and you would paint it and refine it over and over until it looked like a masterpiece. Honestly, it's possible. Like it is within the ability to happen. I think the reason why it doesn't is because it still would take a lot of time, and it's kind of boring just to try to fix your one single masterpiece. You know, it just takes a lot of time. I remember seeing this photorealistic painting of Morgan Freeman once, and people were calling out the artist that it was fake and all this stuff. And I think it turned out it wasn't. I think it was absolutely legit. And the artist is like, look, like, I understand why you guys would say this, but honestly, it took me almost 140, 150 hours just sitting here painting this thing. And that I can believe. Right? And what that tells me, because I think a lot of people are like looking at some of their other work and we're just like, how is it possible? You know? And I was like, well, I mean, if he or she really did sit down and just paint for several days straight, or collectively over a month. I think that's what they said too. I think it was over like a month, but it was like collectively 140 some odd hours. Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of rework opportunity. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. Again, why would anyone actually want to do that? I know for myself, hell no would I ever want to sit still for that long painting a singular image, you know? But it makes sense to me that if you did want to sit still on one single painting, you absolutely can. And what I encourage people to do is not to do that. I think it's more mentally healthy as an artist to kind of give yourself a time box. Say, hey, I'm only going to spend X amount of time, and once I'm done within that time frame, I'm going to essentially, I am going to essentially just let it go. Like as far as I could have taken it within that time, I've given myself plenty of good amounts of effort. That this is fair and fine. I don't need to spend any more time on this. And I will take all the things that I wish I could have done, or things I wish I could do now on this painting onto my next painting. And I think that's a much healthier approach. Because what that does, what that allows, is that people can begin to like learn from their previous stuff. And because of that, you're like leaving the crime scene of your first image. You're allowed to try new things. That's the next advantage of this approach, you know? Or better yet, you have like more retrospective. You can look back at what you did and have more wisdom attached to it. And I think that's the part that I like about abandoning a piece of artwork, is that you get a bit of wisdom once you leave, you know? And oh my god, this is not so high resolution. Oh my gosh, 900 pixels. Holy smokes! Let's increase that by at least 300%. Oh yeah, look at that. That's gonna still be looking like garbage, but it's okay. It's okay. We can live with this. Let me pick a brush that has a little bit more violence to it. So triangle. Yeah, this has a little bit more violence to it. It's got some more grit to it. It's got more variation. Oh, let's do this too. Let me just merge all this, and then let us make a new layer, put on color mode, and then let's just change the whole vibe. So when you see the thumbnail, you're gonna be so confused. Maybe I should just put the poop in there. Oh my god. All right, we'll see. We'll see how I feel at the end of this, because it's gonna be wild to look at this, to be like, it came from that. What? How? And I do think I need to keep some clues of the original image. I don't want to paint all all of it out. Oh, this is still color mode, so let me merge this down. Um, so yeah, I mean, kind of getting to the premise of this video, a lot of what I discovered is that, yeah, if you just make less mistakes from the start, ultimately, is how you can truly improve your work, in terms of like how far you will take it. Because if you're spending like a lot of your time correcting your work, that just means you still have a lot to learn, you know? And if you're like not finishing paintings or not building portfolio pieces, it is again evidence that you're just not there yet in terms of your skill set. And I always will have my students do this thing where I'll just have them finish their paintings. And they usually or like, but I don't know how to finish a painting. And just like anything in life, you'll learn more the more you do it. And so I usually encourage them to just do it because it's just going to teach them how to become better at finishing their paintings. They're going to experience it and they're going to garner some skill. And I always say time box it because then that'll allow you to prevent you from like doing the Morgan Freeman painting over, 150 somewhat hours. Another thing that you should keep in mind as you start to do more and more fleshed out, finished illustrations and concept art is that you absolutely need to train and study and practice stuff that is not just finished paintings either. You should do smaller stuff like painting materials, learning better shape design, practicing with lighting and forms, understanding anatomy, understanding cultures, proportions, understanding perspective, scope, scale, a lot of cool stuff to make you a great artist. But it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. And it doesn't come easily, and it just doesn't come naturally usually for a lot of people. And because of that, they think they're doing something wrong. But finishing an illustration, finishing a painting, finishing a drawing, what that does is it gives you a bit of like an example of what to beat. I always call it finishing the race. You got to finish the race to know what time to beat. And so if you don't finish the race, then you always are going to be guessing on what your best times are. You feel me? And so when you do a finished painting, and I think like something reasonable, try to do something really polished and finished, at least every other day. If not, if that's too aggressive, then try to do a finished illustration or drawing or concept at least once a week. If you do something as long as once a month, I think that's too long. You need to be constantly seeing where you're at, And let's say you do the once a week approach, which is very reasonable. At the end of the week, you might be like, shit, I don't think I understand this as much as I thought I did. And you have a lot of questions. And then once you finish that piece, then you have a lot of stuff that like you can put on the laundry list of things to study for the next week. I'm going to study X, Y, Z because damn, dude, I was really struggling with this stuff. You know what I mean? And then once you do that, then you're like, okay, now the week is over. Let me do my quote unquote test of my abilities and attempt to try to complete another illustration or concept or portfolio piece. So forth and so on. And the more you do this, the more you're constantly challenging yourself, the more you're always going to have a good understanding of like your actual skill set. I have a really good understanding of how long it will take me to do the stuff that I'm really good at, like painting and designing. Like I can tell that in another 30 or 40 minutes, if I stay on this painting, whether I have 30 to 40 minutes more to talk, we'll see. But if I were to spend 30 to 40 more minutes, this could look really polished. I don't think it would be 100% done, but another hour, it's another hour or two, absolutely this bad boy will look 100% finished. And that's because I've just spent so many years doing this, and I've painted so many refined paintings that I know how quickly I can do certain things. I think it's interesting too that a lot of people, when they look at my portfolio, especially my students, they're like, how do you get away with like doing sketches and such? Like, how do you get work with these types of things? And I was like, well, I have like literally thousands of paintings that are roughly like these kinds of half painted, half sketched stuff. And a lot of the work I get now is because of this. And it's cool. It's really cool. But a lot of what I do too is also just like art direction. And I think that as a consequence of moving quicker and more effectively, because of my years of experience, my sketches tend to look already kind of, they serve the purpose that I think concept art usually needs to serve, which is giving us a glimpse of something visual, a visual idea of what was perceived in someone else's mind, you know? And if we could do a good job of that, then it becomes really, really awesome to be able to just pump out concepts all the time. You know, somebody has a cool idea, in about minutes you can show them, like, that's great. You'll have a lot of value that way. But make no mistake, I've been doing this for so long that I can, yeah, if I wanted to, I can really paint this. It's funny, I just did this Snow White little painting. And boy, people have some opinions about that. It's really awesome. But one of the things that I thought I saw online on my Instagram, someone was like, I thought this was real. Like this was like out of the movie, you know? Which is funny to think that there's a moment where Snow White becomes some sort of flesh-eating alien. But I do this for a living. You know? I make compelling images. And a lot of my sketches are what I call my my training grounds, like my stomping grounds. Like a lot of my sketches tend to be me experimenting and trying stuff, and some of the stuff that I experiment with, like, people can care less about. The vast majority of them, I think. So just to give you some perspective, like, I think a lot of my images, a good image on Instagram, specifically, the perspective on this, it would be if I get roughly 3,000 to 4,000 likes on any given image, that means it has some sort of appeal to it. That means it's hitting some real strides, and it's getting people to feel something about it. And images that I do that don't do that, I don't think any less of. I don't like hate them. I'm not like, why don't people like this? You know, I just observe. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. Right? Like even this Snow White painting that I just did this morning is actually doing way better than a lot of my other content. And my reaction was not, should I make more movie reaction commentary? Because that's not what I want to do. You know? And so my reaction is just more like, it's probably just because it's pop culture and people seem to have a strong opinion about it. And I might be tapping into that. And I don't necessarily want to chase that. You know, I don't necessarily want to be a part of that crowd. You know what I mean? And so I'm just observing. I'm just observing what's doing well that I do like and a lot, and what doesn't do well that I also like a lot. And then stuff that does well, but I'm kind of like, I'm indifferent about. And there's like artwork that I make that I do feel this way. I'm just like indifferent about it. And then there's artwork that I make that I have strong feelings, and it can go one way or another. And again, like the whole point of this is that I'm just observing and I'm paying attention. And whenever I do this, like I'm giving myself these opportunities to learn more about who I am as an artist. And I think that whenever you are trying to finish a piece of painting and you're trying to make it awesome, a lot of the resistance typically comes from this feeling of, like, you know, pandering or living up to a standard or certain level of taste that you have in your mind. And if you don't do that with this piece, like what's the point? Like, you want to make sure everything lines up. But as I just described, like even with the way I approach my own sketches, I don't anticipate they're going to do well or not. I have a good suspicion on what images could do well. Like I have a good intuition based off of just evidence of my previous work. You know, I do. I have a good sense of like what people will probably gravitate towards. Right. But I don't let that feed into what I ought to be doing all the time. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos. Before I get into that, let me kind of finish this point about polish further, which is, you know, when you finish your work, you do want to make sure it's what you want to do. And if it's not good and you put it out there, people will let you know one way or another. Whether they don't let you know at all, then you can kind of pay attention to that, or they will let you know that you did great, and then you can start paying attention to that. But if you are going to focus on what actually does really well without this kind of sense of drive and focus, then you might be leading yourself in the wrong direction. Like, for instance, if you do a lot of rough sketches and that does really well, but unfortunately, that's not the kind of stuff that can get you work unless you're probably more established like myself, like you have street cred and you have examples. When people ask me, like, hey, do you have any finished work? Which has been asked of me. Like, people ask me in interviews, hey, have you ever like finished a fucking painting? They don't talk like that, but they do ask like straight up. And I say, yes, of course. They're, oh, I don't see it on your portfolio, but they're like on my art station, and the first few hundred images are probably rough. So they would have to fish through all of that to find what I do. And I don't blame them. So I don't get mad. I don't feel like I have to be like, don't you know? You know, it's none of that. I'm like, yeah, I get it. So I go get all of my, work that I've done. Sometimes stuff that I don't even put online that I've finished and I've done for, some really cool projects that I just show them that and they're like, whoa, what? I didn't see this in your portfolio. And it's like, yeah, I don't share everything I do on my portfolio, not because I'm not proud of it. It's just because I actually like just showing sketches. I like showing just that. I don't know about just showing the best work all the freaking time. Is what I want to do at this very moment, but it's not something that I would encourage my students to do. I encourage them to try to build a proper portfolio. They need to work on establishing themselves. And so, yeah, if you're just putting out rough and tough sketches and you get a lot of attention to that, you might have this false sense of competency because there is positive reinforcement. But you have to pay attention. Like, what is it that you really want to do? So, again, the Snow White example I'm just using this, it literally just came to my attention this morning as I was looking at the numbers. Like, wow, like this is doing way better. And even on my Instagram, I used it as a kind of a neutral zone. I didn't say anything about making a YouTube video. I didn't say anything about like go check it out. I just posted the image raw and made a kind of a joke about like, oh, spoilers, like I didn't expect the flesh eating alien part. There's no commentary on it. It's just indifferent, a fun goof of a painting, and people have a very strong reaction even on Instagram. So, which makes me think, oh, it's probably because of the humor, and it's also probably because of like the absurdity of it, like the idea that this innocent character design supposed to be a flesh-eating alien is absurd and kind of humorous, and it's executed effectively. That it looks real, looks believable. Um, and honestly, wouldn't be shocked if people were like, "Oh, this is AI." Like, did you use AI? You know. And so, to me, I'm just observing because what I don't want to do is be a reactionary YouTube channel. Like, that's just not what I want to do. What I want to do is to make and draw stuff often. So if I'm going to react, I'm probably going to paint and draw alongside it. If I am going to react about something, it's going to be something that I want to react to. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of conversations that are being had. And some of them I just don't have any interest in being a part of. And when it comes to like what it means to put your artwork out there, guys, and to try to find that voice, you got to remember that. Like, what is it that you're trying to polish in the first place? Like, what are you trying to aim for? What are you trying to become? And so then when you begin to polish your pieces of paint, and I thought I was going to go somewhere else too, the way I was phrasing that. Whatever you're aiming to do, like how you're aiming to build your quote unquote skill set, make sure that it aligns with overall where you want to be. Like I was mentioning just moments ago, where I didn't want to jump into it right away because I think it's a little bit agnostic, or it's a little bit off topic to kind of what I'm talking about now. But I think I talked a lot about polish already, and I told a really cool story. So since I just want to sit here and paint a little bit longer, see if I can take this a little bit further. I absolutely want to make this look almost unrecognizable from where it started. It is almost like pointless that I even used it. So um, the the thing I was doing, because I've been like uh, just looking online at other YouTubers, right? Because I'm like, okay, like what would I do normally if I'm trying to get good at something? So I want to try to build this channel. I want to try to make it better. I just research, I just study, and I look at and observe other people's YouTube channels, and just pay attention. I already watched quite a few that just indirectly. I just like watching other YouTubers, like other content creators from all walks of life. And so I was just watching some peer-based YouTubers who do content online for art, the art community. And I was already could feel just from watching them, like it's fascinating, man, like how human I am and how human we all are. It was just that I was watching this video, and this young artist, she was just talking about a moment in her life while she was drawing. It's kind of like a Jaden Animates thing, or like this female animator who creates these really fun short animated films about her experiences in life, and they're just super cute and very relatable. Anyway, it was something like that. It was like under a minute. So I was trying to like observe like how shorts were done, because I was like, I should try to do a couple of shorts, see how that goes, and see what I would like to do with the shorts, And I was just listening to her talk about this moment in her life and how like funny it was to me, just listening to it. Like what she was saying was funny, not how funny the whole situation. Just she was making a fun story, and I enjoyed listening to it. And I said to myself, this seems like something that I could do. But why? Why am I wanting to do this because of the sole reason to improve my chances to go quote unquote viral, right? Or I genuinely want to do this? And the answer was, yeah, I think my instincts was like, oh, this is so viral. Like that was like my reaction. I was looking at the numbers as well. I was like getting millions of views. And I say, oh, okay, so maybe this isn't what I should do, because that seemed like a bad motivation. So instead what I did was like, okay, let me look at what I like about what she's doing and see what I can borrow, right? One thing that she was doing, she would just do a drawing, and she would just kind of piece it together over time. And I thought that's something that I'm okay with. Like I like that, like recording something. But again, I'm like, I work a lot. I have very little time because of how big my family is. Because when I'm not working, I eat, sleep, and then I hang out with my family, and it's very minimal my time these days. And it's unfortunate, but eventually, hopefully, it'll start to lighten up in the coming years. And so I was just like, dude, maybe I try something else instead. Maybe because I don't really want to talk about myself any more than I already do on my kind of long form content. And this just seems like double work. It was like, but I always would love to tell little short stories. So maybe I can draw like a concept and then like come up with an idea, a world, and like kind of what I did with my world building stuff that I liked a lot. And then see how that does. And just put that out there. And if it's like fun to do, very light work with my schedule, and I enjoy it, and I feel like I'm really building some skill here. If the numbers aren't ginormous, then I don't think it matters as much. Then it just becomes a matter of, okay, well, let me just quote unquote polish this more and more so that it becomes of high quality in some way. if it's just the way I tell my stories becomes more refined, if it's the imagery that becomes more appealing to look at and people observe, if it becomes the world that I'm building starts to have more weight because there's more art that's attached to it, and people are like, ooh, I have something I can like follow along to, but now there's a catalog of it, you know? I don't know. Or maybe not. Maybe I try it a couple times and I'm like, actually, this is not for me. And it just is this true to form painting and drawing and talking like I am doing right now. But anyway, I've kind of ventured way off of the polish subject a little bit. And I do want to do a video that I think would actually be hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, maybe a two-parter painting, where I'm going to do a painting that would be of high quality to the best of my ability, you know, within that time. I don't want to paint something that would take me several hours, which is what normally would be something that's of professional caliber. But I think you'd get the point after like a long ass painting session that it just takes time, homies. It just takes time. At some point, like even when this was still green, like it was mostly there. All I'm doing now is just refining and defining. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of what people expect in a finished painting in the process is like there's something else to it. But unfortunately, folks, it is just a tedious adventure. Another flesh-eating alien. Anyway, gotta get back to work. Just looked at the time. Kids are gonna go to bed soon. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you guys want to support me, keep liking these videos as well as following me. And then, yeah, support me by checking out my tutorials and purchasing this up. I have a mentorship opening in June. I only have several seats left in each class. But they usually are pretty good for a while. But as we approach June of 2025, depending on when you're listening to this, this might be irrelevant to you. Or maybe it's not. Maybe I actually have a June mentorship, but it's in a different year. Either way, I'll see you guys around. Thanks for all the positive vibes as always. I appreciate y'all. And I'll check you guys later.